Ethan Cross was not your average billionaire. At just 32 years old, he had already conquered the tech world, building a fortune that most people could only dream of. His company, CrossTech, revolutionized artificial intelligence and became a household name across the globe. But behind his polished suits, luxurious penthouse, and fleet of high-end cars lay a man burdened by loneliness and heartache. Ethan's journey to success began in a modest home where he grew up with his parents, both teachers who instilled in him the value of hard work and perseverance. From an early age, Ethan showed a fascination with computers. By the time he turned 16, he had built his first app, a simple tool designed to help students organize their schedules. That small project sparked something inside him, a passion for innovation. He dropped out of college midway through his studies, much to his parents' dismay, and poured all his energy into developing software solutions that would eventually lead to the creation of CrossTech. Success came quickly, but it didn't come without sacrifices. The long hours spent coding, pitching ideas to investors, and managing a growing team left little room for personal relationships. Still, Ethan found happiness when he met Sarah, a kind-hearted artist whose creativity balanced his analytical mind. Their love story seemed like something out of a movie. They were opposites in many ways, yet perfectly complementary. After 2 years of dating, they got married in a quiet ceremony surrounded by close friends and family. But life has a way of testing even the strongest bonds. Just 6 months after their wedding, Sarah became pregnant with twins. For Ethan, this news felt like the culmination of everything he had worked toward: a loving wife, a thriving career, and now a family. He imagined teaching his children how to code, watching them grow and creating memories together. However, fate had other plans. Tragedy struck during childbirth. Though the twins were born healthy, complications arose, and Sarah passed away shortly afterward. Her death shattered Ethan, leaving him hollow and questioning the meaning of his achievements. To make matters worse, the hospital staff informed him that the newborns had been abducted while under temporary care. Despite launching an exhaustive search effort involving private investigators and law enforcement, no trace of the babies was ever found. The loss of Sarah and the disappearance of his daughters consumed Ethan, turning what should have been the happiest chapter of his life into his darkest nightmare. Over the next 6 years, Ethan threw himself into his work, using it as a distraction from the pain. He expanded CrossTech into international markets, earning accolades and breaking records along the way. Yet, despite his outward success, those who knew him well could see the sadness etched into his face. Friends encouraged him to move on, to date again or adopt a child, but Ethan couldn't bring himself to do either. Deep down, he clung to the hope that one day he might find his daughters, or at least uncover the truth about what happened to them. One chilly December evening, Ethan attended a charity gala hosted by one of his business partners. As usual, he kept to himself, exchanging polite conversation with guests but avoiding anything too personal. When the event ended, he climbed into his sleek black car and began the drive back to his penthouse. The streets were unusually quiet, save for the occasional hum of distant traffic and the faint glow of streetlights reflecting off the frost-covered pavement. As he approached an intersection, something, or rather, someone, caught his eye. 2 young women, barely more than teenagers, sat huddled together on the sidewalk outside an abandoned building. They wore tattered clothes and wrapped themselves in thin blankets, clearly trying to shield themselves from the biting cold. One of them held a cardboard sign that read, "Anything helps." The other stared blankly ahead, her expression a mix of exhaustion and resignation. What struck Ethan wasn't just their obvious plight, it was the uncanny resemblance between the two. Their features were identical, right down to the shape of their eyes and the curve of their lips. Identical twins. Something about them stirred a deep, inexplicable feeling within him. Maybe it was the way they leaned against each other for warmth, a silent testament to their bond. Or maybe it was the haunting familiarity in their faces, though he couldn't quite place why. For a moment, Ethan hesitated. He had seen homelessness before. It was impossible to miss in a bustling city like this. But tonight, Something compelled him to act. Perhaps it was the memory of Sarah whispering dreams of motherhood into his ear, or the image of two tiny cribs standing empty in the nursery he had prepared so long ago. Whatever it was, Ethan pulled over, stepped out of his car, and approached the pair. "Are you okay?" he asked gently, his voice cutting through the stillness of the night. The twins looked up, startled. One of them, the one holding the sign, spoke first. "We're fine," she said, though her trembling voice betrayed her words. "Just waiting." "Waiting for what?" Ethan pressed, crouching down to meet their gaze. "For nothing," the second twin replied bitterly. "There's nothing left to wait for." Her tone struck a chord in Ethan. It reminded him of his own despair, the same emptiness he had battled for years. Without thinking twice, he extended a hand. "Come with me," he said firmly. "You can't stay out here. Let me take you somewhere safe." At first, the twins exchanged wary glances. Strangers offering help weren't uncommon on the streets, but trust was a luxury they couldn't afford. Still, there was something different about this man. His piercing blue eyes carried a mixture of authority and genuine concern. Reluctantly, they nodded and allowed him to guide them to his car. During the ride to his penthouse, Ethan learned their names, Mia and Ava. They were guarded at first, answering his questions with short, clipped responses. But as the warmth of the car enveloped them and the promise of safety sank in, they began to open up. They spoke of living on the streets for years, surviving on scraps and odd jobs. They mentioned being separated from their adoptive parents, but refused to elaborate further. Each word they spoke added another layer of mystery, drawing Ethan deeper into their story. By the time they reached his penthouse, Ethan knew one thing for certain. These girls were special. Whether it was fate, coincidence, or something else entirely, he couldn't ignore the connection he felt to them. Little did he know this chance encounter would set off a chain of events that would change all of their lives forever. When Ethan arrived at his penthouse with Mia and Ava, he opened the door to reveal a world unlike anything the twins had ever seen. The spacious apartment was modern yet inviting, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering breathtaking views of the city skyline. Soft lighting illuminated sleek furniture, and the faint hum of central heating filled the air, a stark contrast to the biting cold they had endured on the streets. For Mia and Ava, it felt like stepping into another universe. Ethan led them to the living room, where plush couches surrounded a glass coffee table adorned with magazines and decorative bowls. He gestured for them to sit while he disappeared into the kitchen. Moments later, he returned with steaming mugs of hot chocolate topped with whipped cream and a plate of sandwiches. "Eat," he urged gently, placing the food on the table before them. "You must be starving." Mia hesitated, glancing at her sister as if seeking permission. Ava gave a slight nod, and together they began eating. It was clear from their cautious bites that they weren't used to such generosity. Or perhaps they feared it might vanish as quickly as it appeared. Ethan watched silently, his heart aching at the thought of how much they had suffered. Despite their ragged appearance and weary eyes, there was an undeniable strength about them, a resilience forged through years of hardship. Once they finished eating, Ethan sat across from them, leaning forward slightly. "Tell me about yourselves," he said softly. "Where are you from? How long have you been on your own?" The twins exchanged a glance, their bond evident even in silence. Finally, Mia spoke up. "We don't know much about our past," she admitted, her voice tinged with frustration. "We were raised by a couple who, well, let's just say they weren't good people. When things went bad financially, they kicked us out. That was 4 years ago. And since then?" Ethan prompted, his brow furrowing. "Since then, we've been surviving," Ava chimed in, her tone sharper than her sister's. "Doing odd jobs, selling crafts, whatever we could do to get by. But no one looks out for kids like us, not really." Ethan nodded slowly, absorbing their words. Something about their story unsettled him, though he couldn't pinpoint why. Perhaps it was the way they referred to their adoptive parents with such bitterness, or the flicker of fear that crossed their faces when discussing their past. Whatever it was, it gnawed at him, urging him to dig deeper. "What about before that?" he asked carefully. "Do you remember anything from when you were younger, before the couple took you in?" Mia shook her head, but Ava hesitated. She stared at the floor for a moment before speaking. "I remember bits and pieces," she said quietly. "A hospital room, bright lights, a woman crying, and someone else. A man with blue eyes." Her words sent a jolt through Ethan. Blue eyes, his own defining feature. He forced himself to stay calm, not wanting to alarm the girls. "Anything else?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "There was yelling," Mia added, picking up where her sister left off. "Arguments about money. Someone saying we'd be better off somewhere else than nothing. Just waking up in a strange house with people we didn't know." Ethan leaned back against the couch, his mind racing. The fragments of memory painted a troubling picture. Could it be possible that these girls were victims of abduction? If so, who had taken them? And why? More importantly, what connected them to him? Over the next few days, Ethan did everything he could to make Mia and Ava feel comfortable in his home. He provided them with fresh clothes, toiletries, and access to his guest rooms. He arranged for medical checkups, ensuring they received proper care after years of neglect. Slowly but surely, they began to trust him, opening up more about their lives. During one conversation, Mia mentioned something that caught Ethan's attention. "Our adoptive mom used to talk about a rich father sometimes. She said he didn't deserve us because he couldn't protect us." Her voice trailed off, unsure of whether she should continue. Ethan's pulse quickened. Rich father? Could she be referring to him? He had always suspected foul play in the disappearance of his daughters, but he never imagined they might still be alive, or that they would find their way back to him under such circumstances. Determined to uncover the truth, Ethan decided to take action. He contacted Dr. Laura Bennett, a renowned forensic expert known for her work in DNA analysis. Explaining the situation over the phone, he arranged for discreet testing. The following day, he approached Mia and Ava with the idea. "I want to help you figure out where you came from," he told them sincerely. "There's a chance we can use science to unlock answers about your past. Would you be willing to try?" The twins exchanged a glance, uncertainty written across their faces. "What kind of test?" Ava asked cautiously. "It's simple," Ethan reassured them. "Just a cheek swab. No needles, no pain. It'll tell us if there's any connection between you and certain people." Though hesitant, the twins agreed. They understood that finding answers might mean discovering family members they never knew existed, or confirming that they truly had no one left in the world. Either way, they wanted closure. As they awaited the results, Ethan spent more time with Mia and Ava, learning about their personalities and quirks. He discovered that Mia was the quieter of the two, often observing situations before speaking. She had a knack for drawing and spent hours sketching scenes from the city outside the window. Ava, on the other hand, was fiercely protective and outspoken, always ready to defend her sister. She loved music and often hummed tunes under her breath, though she rarely sang aloud. Despite their differences, the twins shared an unbreakable bond. They finished each other's sentences, anticipated each other's needs, and moved through life as a single unit. Watching them interact reminded Ethan of Sarah, the way she used to light up when talking about motherhood, imagining the joy of raising children. The thought brought tears to his eyes, which he quickly brushed away before the girls noticed. Finally, the day arrived when Dr. Bennett called with the results. Ethan excused himself to take the call, his hands trembling as he held the phone. After a brief explanation, the doctor confirmed what Ethan had begun to suspect. Mia and Ava were biologically related to him. They were his daughters, the twin girls stolen from him 6 years ago. Hanging up the phone, Ethan sank onto a nearby chair, overwhelmed by emotion. Joy, relief, anger, and sorrow collided within him, leaving him breathless. For years he had carried the weight of their loss, believing he would never see them again. Now here they were, alive and safe, sitting just a few rooms away. But questions still lingered. Who had taken them? Why had they been abandoned? And most importantly, how could he ensure they never face such pain again? Taking a deep breath, Ethan composed himself and returned to the living room. Mia and Ava looked up expectantly, sensing the gravity of the moment. "Girls," he began, his voice thick with emotion, "there's something I need to tell you." Their expressions shifted from curiosity to apprehension. Whatever Ethan was about to say, they knew it would change everything. Little did they realize just how profoundly their lives and his were about to transform. Ethan stood in the living room, his heart pounding as he looked at Mia and Ava. They sat side by side on the couch, their faces reflecting a mix of curiosity and apprehension. He had rehearsed this moment in his mind countless times over the years, imagining what it would feel like to reunite with his daughters. But now that it was happening, words felt inadequate. How could he possibly convey the depth of his emotions? How could he explain the pain of losing them and the joy of finding them again? Taking a deep breath, Ethan began. "Girls," he said softly, his voice trembling slightly. "The DNA test results are back, and they've revealed something extraordinary." He paused, searching their eyes for any sign of understanding or fear. "Mia, Ava, you're my daughters." For a moment there was silence. The twins stared at him, their expressions frozen in disbelief. Then, slowly, Mia's hand reached out to grasp Ava's. It was as if they were drawing strength from each other, just as they always had. Finally, Ava broke the quiet. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan knelt down in front of them, his piercing blue eyes locking onto theirs. "6 years ago, I lost my wife, your mother, in childbirth. She passed away shortly after giving birth to you two. But before I even got the chance to hold you, someone took you away from me. I spent years searching for you, never giving up hope that one day I'd find you. And now?" His voice cracked and he swallowed hard. "Now here you are." Tears welled up in Mia's eyes, spilling silently down her cheeks. Ava blinked rapidly, trying to process what she had just heard. "You're saying we're your daughters?" she asked, her voice shaking. "That makes no sense. Why would anyone take us? Who did this?" Ethan shook his head, his jaw tightening with anger. "I don't have all the answers yet, but I promise you I'll find out. Whoever is responsible for separating us will be held accountable. What matters now is that you're safe and you're home." The weight of his words settled over the room, filling the air with a mixture of relief and unresolved questions. For Mia and Ava, the revelation was both exhilarating and overwhelming. On one hand, they finally had answers about their past. The pieces of their fragmented memories suddenly made sense. On the other hand, the truth opened up a floodgate of emotions. Confusion, anger, sadness, and even guilt for not remembering more about their early childhood. Ethan could see the turmoil in their eyes and knew he needed to tread carefully. "I understand this is a lot to take in," he said gently. "You don't have to figure everything out right now. All I want is for you to know that I'm here for you, for whatever you need. We'll face this together." Mia nodded slowly, her grip on Ava's hand tightening. "It's just so much," she murmured. "I remember bits and pieces, but most of it feels like a dream, or maybe a nightmare." Ava chimed in, her tone sharper than usual. "We deserve to know the truth. If someone stole us from you, then they destroyed our lives. They ruined everything, for you, for us, for Mom." Her voice trailed off, choked with emotion. Ethan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You're absolutely right," he said firmly. "And I won't rest until we uncover every detail. But first, let's focus on healing. You've been through enough already." Over the next few days, Ethan worked tirelessly to piece together the puzzle of their past. He hired a team of private investigators and lawyers, determined to track down those responsible for the abduction. Meanwhile, he encouraged Mia and Ava to share anything else they remembered about their childhood, no matter how small or insignificant it seemed. One evening, as they sat around the dining table sharing a meal, Mia hesitantly spoke up. "There's something else I remember," she said, glancing at Ava for support. When we were little, our adoptive mom used to argue with someone on the phone. She kept talking about money and how he wouldn't pay up. Does that mean anything? Ethan's stomach churned. Money. It was often the root of evil, and in this case it seemed to play a central role in their tragedy. It might, he replied thoughtfully. Whoever took you probably did it for financial gain or revenge. Either way, it points to someone who knew me personally. As the investigation progressed, clues began to surface. The private investigators uncovered records linking the twins' adoption to a woman named Vanessa Harper, a name that sent chills down Ethan's spine. Vanessa was Sarah's stepsister, a manipulative and jealous individual who had always resented Ethan's success. After Sarah's death, Vanessa disappeared without a trace, leaving behind rumors of shady dealings and bitter resentment. Confronting this possibility was painful for Ethan. He had trusted Vanessa once, inviting her into their lives during Sarah's final days. Could she really have orchestrated such a cruel act? The evidence suggested she had. Bank statements showed large sums of money transferred to her account around the time of the twins' disappearance. Witnesses reported seeing her near the hospital on the night of the abduction. When the investigators presented their findings to Ethan, he felt a surge of fury unlike anything he had ever experienced. Vanessa hadn't just betrayed him. She had stolen his children, condemned them to a life of hardship, and left him to grieve for 6 long years. The betrayal cut deeper than any business rivalry or personal slight ever could. But Ethan didn't let his anger consume him. Instead, he channeled it into action. With the help of his legal team, he filed charges against Vanessa, ensuring she would face justice for her crimes. At the same time, he focused on rebuilding his relationship with Mia and Ava. Every morning he joined them for breakfast, asking about their dreams and aspirations. Every evening he listened to their stories, learning more about the incredible resilience that had carried them through years of struggle. Slowly but surely, the bond between father and daughters grew stronger. Mia started sketching portraits of Ethan, capturing the warmth in his smile and the determination in his eyes. Ava began humming melodies again, her voice growing bolder with each passing day. Together, they explored the city, visited museums, and laughed over shared meals. For the first time in years, Ethan felt a sense of wholeness, a feeling he hadn't realized was missing until now. Yet, despite the progress they were making, shadows of the past lingered. The memory of Sarah haunted Ethan, reminding him of the love they had lost and the family they should have had. For Mia and Ava, the scars of abandonment ran deep, manifesting in moments of insecurity and doubt. But they faced these challenges together, leaning on each other for support. One night, as they gathered in the living room watching old movies, Ava turned to Ethan with a thoughtful expression. "Do you think Mom would be proud of us, Dido?" asked quietly. Ethan smiled, his eyes glistening with tears. "She would be more than proud," he replied. "She dreamed of being a mother, of raising strong, beautiful girls like you. And look at you now. You've survived things no child should ever have to endure. You've shown courage and strength beyond measure. Sarah would be amazed by the women you've become." Mia reached out to squeeze Ava's hand, her own eyes shining. "Maybe one day we can honor her memory," she suggested. Maybe start something in her name?" Ethan nodded, touched by their idea. "That's a wonderful thought," he said. "Together we can create something meaningful, a legacy that reflects her kindness and compassion." In that moment, surrounded by the laughter and love of his reunited family, Ethan realized that while the scars of the past would always remain, they didn't define them. What truly mattered was the future they were building together, a future filled with hope, healing, and endless possibilities. The investigation into Vanessa Harper's role in the abduction of Mia and Ava moved swiftly, fueled by Ethan's determination and the mounting evidence against her. It didn't take long for the authorities to locate her hiding out in a small, coastal town under an assumed name. When she was finally arrested, the news sent shockwaves through Ethan's world. For years he had carried the weight of unanswered questions about his daughter's disappearance, and now, at last, the truth was coming to light. Vanessa's arrest was only the beginning. As the legal proceedings unfolded, more disturbing details emerged about her motives and actions. During interrogations, she confessed to orchestrating the kidnapping, revealing that her jealousy of Ethan's success and her resentment towards Sarah had driven her to commit such a heinous act. She claimed she never intended for the twins to suffer, insisting that she only wanted what was best for them by placing them with a family who could provide stability. But her warped logic crumbled under scrutiny when investigators uncovered proof that she had pocketed a significant sum of money from the transaction. Ethan attended every court hearing, sitting stoically as Vanessa's crimes were laid bare. While part of him felt vindicated knowing justice would be served, another part struggled with the betrayal. Vanessa wasn't just some faceless criminal. She was someone he had once trusted, someone who had been part of his life during one of its most painful chapters. Her betrayal cut deeper than any business rival or personal enemy ever could, because it had cost him 6 years with his daughters. For Mia and Ava, the trial was both cathartic and emotionally draining. They testified via video link, recounting their memories of being abandoned by their adoptive parents and forced to fend for themselves on the streets. Their voices wavered at times, but their courage never faltered. Watching them speak so bravely filled Ethan with pride, though it also broke his heart to hear the hardships they endured. He wished he could turn back time and protect them from the pain they had suffered. As the case progressed, new evidence surfaced, linking Vanessa not only to the abduction, but also to Sarah's untimely death. Forensic experts re-examined the hospital, records from the night of Sarah's passing, uncovering discrepancies that suggested foul play. Toxicology reports revealed traces of a sedative in her system, something that should not have been present during childbirth. Investigators theorized that Vanessa had tampered with Sarah's medication, causing complications that ultimately led to her demise. When this revelation came to light, Ethan felt as though the ground beneath him had shifted. The woman he had loved, the mother of his children, hadn't died due to natural causes. She had been murdered, silenced by Vanessa's greed and hatred. The realization left him reeling, unable to sleep or focus. Nights stretched endlessly as he replayed their final moments together, wishing he had done more to protect her. Mia and Ava, too, grappled with the news. Though they had no direct memories of their mother, they felt her absence deeply. Learning that her death had been deliberate added another layer of grief to their already complicated emotions. Yet instead of letting bitterness consume them, they channeled their pain into something positive. Inspired by their earlier conversation with Ethan, they began brainstorming ways to honor Sarah's memory. Together, they envisioned creating a foundation dedicated to helping families affected by child trafficking and exploitation, a cause close to their own hearts. Ethan supported their idea wholeheartedly, seeing it as a way to channel his anger and sorrow into meaningful action. With his resources and influence, he helped establish the Sarah Cross Foundation, named after his late wife. Its mission was simple yet powerful: to raise awareness, provide support to victims, and advocate for stronger laws to prevent similar tragedies. The foundation quickly gained traction, drawing attention from media outlets and philanthropists alike. Donations poured in, allowing them to fund shelters, counseling programs, and educational initiatives aimed at breaking the cycle of abuse. While the foundation gave them purpose, the legal battle against Vanessa remained unresolved. The trial dragged on for months, each day bringing fresh revelations and raw emotions. Finally, the verdict arrived: guilty on all counts. Vanessa was sentenced to life in prison without parole, ensuring she would never harm another family again. Though the sentence brought a measure of closure, it couldn't erase the scars left behind. For Ethan, the knowledge that justice had been served was bittersweet. He couldn't bring Sarah back, nor could he undo the years stolen from him and his daughters. But he could move forward, carrying her memory with him every step of the way. In the aftermath of the trial, Ethan, Mia, and Ava focused on rebuilding their lives together. They spent weekends exploring the city, visiting parks, and trying new restaurants. Simple pleasures like laughing over inside jokes or sharing stories about their day became cherished rituals. Ethan marveled at how naturally their bond had grown despite the years apart. It was as if fate had always intended for them to find each other again. One evening, as they sat around the dining table enjoying homemade pizza, Ava spoke up. "You know," she said thoughtfully, "I used to think we'd never have a real family, that we were, I don't know, cursed or something. But now," she glanced at Mia, then at Ethan, "now I feel like maybe we're exactly where we're supposed to be." Ethan smiled, his eyes misting over. "You are," he said firmly. "No matter what happened in the past, you're my daughters. And nothing will ever change that." Mia nodded, her expression softening. "It's strange, isn't it? How everything turned out. If we hadn't ended up on those streets that night, we might never have met you again." Ethan reached across the table, taking both of their hands in his. "Maybe it wasn't just luck," he said quietly. "Maybe it was destiny. Either way, I'm grateful for every moment we have together." Their journey was far from over. There would still be challenges ahead, moments of doubt and fear. But they faced them as a united front, drawing strength from their shared experiences and unbreakable connection. Slowly but surely, they were learning to heal, not just as individuals, but as a family. And though the shadows of the past lingered, they no longer defined them. Instead, they served as reminders of how far they had come, and how much brighter the future could be when filled with love, forgiveness, and hope. Months had passed since Vanessa's conviction, and life for Ethan, Mia, and Ava began to settle into a new rhythm. The chaos of the trial and the emotional turmoil of uncovering their painful past gave way to quieter, more peaceful days. They were no longer just three strangers brought together by fate. They were a family, bound by love, resilience, and a shared determination to move forward. The Sarah Cross Foundation became a cornerstone of their lives. What started as a small idea blossomed into a nationwide movement, inspiring countless people to join the fight against child trafficking and exploitation. Ethan used his influence to host fundraising galas, bringing together celebrities, business, leaders, and activists to support the cause. Mia and Ava, too, found their own roles within the foundation. Mia designed logos and promotional materials, her artistic talent shining through in every piece she created. Ava took charge of organizing events, her natural charisma and organizational skills making her a force to be reckoned with. Through the foundation, they met other families who had endured similar tragedies, parents searching for missing children, siblings torn apart by abduction, and survivors struggling to rebuild their lives. Hearing these stories reinforced their commitment to creating change. It also reminded them how fortunate they were to have found each other again. While the scars of their past would always remain, they chose to focus on the present and the future, using their pain as fuel to help others heal. One crisp autumn morning, Ethan invited Mia and Ava to join him at a local park where the foundation was hosting its first community event, a memorial walk dedicated to Sarah. Hundreds of participants gathered, wearing t-shirts emblazoned with her name and carrying signs adorned with messages of hope. As they walked side by side along the tree-lined path, Ethan couldn't help but feel a profound sense of gratitude. This was what Sarah would have wanted, a celebration of life, love, and unity. At the end of the walk, Ethan stood before the crowd to deliver a heartfelt speech. 6 years ago, he began, his voice steady despite the lump in his throat. "I lost my wife and thought I'd never see my daughters again. But today I stand here not as a grieving man, but as someone who has been given a second chance. My daughters are alive, thriving, and standing beside me because of the kindness of strangers and the power of hope." He turned to look at Mia and Ava, who smiled back at him through tears. "This foundation is our way of honoring Sarah's memory," he continued. "She believed in compassion, in lifting others up, and in leaving the world better than we found it. Together we can carry that legacy forward, not just for her, but for every child who deserves a safe and loving home." The applause that followed was thunderous, echoing across the park like a promise of brighter days ahead. For Mia and Ava, the event marked a turning point. It wasn't just about acknowledging their mother's life or celebrating their reunion. It was about embracing the responsibility that came with their story. They realized they had a unique opportunity to make a difference, to turn their tragedy into triumph. As winter approached, Ethan decided it was time to address another lingering wound, saying goodbye to Sarah. Though they had honored her memory, through the foundation neither Ethan nor the twins had formally mourned her passing. With the holidays approaching, Ethan suggested holding a private ceremony at a serene botanical garden he knew Sarah had loved. He invited only a handful of close friends and family members, keeping the gathering intimate and personal. On the day of the memorial, Mia and Ava prepared something special. They wrote letters to their mother, pouring their hearts onto paper. In her letter, Mia expressed gratitude for the strength she believed Sarah had instilled in them, even though they had never met. "Thank you for giving us life," she wrote. "Even though we didn't know you, we feel your love every day. We'll keep fighting for good just like you would have." Ava's letter was shorter but equally heartfelt. "I wish I could have known you," she wrote. "But I promise to make you proud. To be brave, kind, and strong for all of us." During the ceremony, they read their letters aloud, their voices trembling but resolute. When Ethan spoke, he shared stories of Sarah's laughter, her creativity, and her unwavering belief in the goodness of people. By the end, everyone was in tears, but they were tears of healing, not despair. In the months that followed, Mia and Ava continued to grow into their new lives. With Ethan's encouragement, they enrolled in college, pursuing degrees that aligned with their passions. Mia studied art therapy, hoping to use her skills to help others process trauma. Ava majored in social work, driven by a desire to protect vulnerable children from the hardships she and her sister had faced. Watching them thrive filled Ethan with pride, but more importantly, it gave him peace. He saw glimpses of Sarah in everything they did, their kindness, their determination, their ability to find beauty even in brokenness. Ethan, too, rediscovered parts of himself he thought he'd lost. Before meeting Mia and Ava again, he had buried himself in work, believing it was the only way to cope with his grief. Now he allowed himself to slow down, to enjoy simple pleasures like cooking dinner together, watching movies late into the night, or taking long walks through the city. He even started dating again, cautiously opening his heart to the possibility of love. His daughter supported him wholeheartedly, reminding him that Sarah would want him to be happy. One evening, as they sat around the fireplace sipping hot cocoa, Ava broke the comfortable silence. "Do you think Mom would approve of us?" she asked suddenly, her tone light but tinged with vulnerability. Ethan chuckled softly. "Approve of you? Are you kidding? She'd adore you. You're exactly the kind of daughter she dreamed of raising, strong, smart, and full of heart." Mia grinned, leaning back against the couch. "Yeah, but we're also a little stubborn," she teased. "And messy. Remember when we accidentally spilled paint all over your office?" Ethan laughed, shaking his head. "How could I forget? But honestly, those imperfections are what make you perfect. Life isn't about being flawless, it's about being real. And you two are the realest, most amazing people I've ever known." Their laughter echoed through the room, warming the space like the crackling fire. In that moment, surrounded by love and laughter, Ethan felt truly content. The road ahead wouldn't always be easy. There would still be challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt. But they faced them together, drawing strength from their bond and the lessons they had learned along the way. Looking back, Ethan marveled at how fate had intervened. That cold December night when he spotted Mia and Ava on the streets felt like a miracle now. What had started as an act of kindness had transformed into something far greater, a reunion that defied logic and restored faith in the power of love. He often wondered if Sarah had somehow guided him to them, watching over them from above. As spring arrived, bringing with it fresh blooms and renewed energy, Ethan, Mia, and Ava stood on the balcony of their penthouse, gazing out at the city skyline. You know, Ava said thoughtfully, we've come so far. I mean, we're not the same people we were 6 months ago, or 6 years ago. No, Ethan agreed, wrapping an arm around each of them. We're stronger, smarter, better. Because we've been through hell and back and we're still standing. And we're not alone anymore, Mia added, resting her head on Ethan's shoulder. That makes all the difference. They stayed there for a while, letting the cool breeze wash over them as the sun dipped below the horizon. The city lights twinkled below, a reminder of the vast possibilities ahead. Together they had faced unimaginable pain, uncovered shocking truths, and fought for justice. But more importantly, they had built something beautiful, a family rooted in love, trust, and hope. Life wasn't perfect, and it never would be. But perfection wasn't the goal. What mattered was the journey, the laughter, the tears, the struggles, and the triumphs. And as they stepped into this new chapter of their lives, Ethan, Mia, and Ava knew one thing for certain. No matter what lay ahead, they would face it together, hand in hand, heart to heart,